This is the City Clash Developer Log 2. So thanks for following along. In this video, I'm going to show some progress that I've made on the TokenURI function. Now this is the function that basically when you are trying to see your NFT's image and all the metadata for it, this is the function that people hit to actually get all that data. And so this is a really important function to show all the data, show the image. And so I'm going to show you kind of how this works because I figured out some things that were kind of some roadblocks, weren't sure how we were going to do because with the City Clash NFTs, our NFTs are actually dynamic where attributes can change and that actually changes what the image is going to look like. And so we had to figure out some ways to do that. But we'll go through the code in a second, but on a quick level, what this does is it generates this base 64 code. And so when I decode that, I get this. And so this is the metadata for our NFT. And so if I kind of make that look nice, you can see it here. We have like the name of the city. We have the attributes. So like which city, country, how many points this NFT is worth, which faction the city is owned by, and then who currently owns this faction. And so these are the two values that are changing. You know, it can change from different teams, different factions, red, green, blue. And so that's where, I'll show you that in a second. In the code, we actually kind of change this data on the fly based on who owns the NFT. And then you'll see here we have the actual image is also in base 64. And so if I just copy this and we'll put it back here, decode it, you'll see that it generates an SVG. So if I pop that into here, this is what we get. This is just a test, obviously. But this is, you know, kind of creating our actual NFT image. And so the way we decided to do this, which will allow us to kind of have a dynamic NFT image, is the base level of the NFT is an image hosted with IPFS. But it's actually pointing to an SVG because we're generating SVGs for each country, each of the outlines that you'll see in a City Clash NFT. That base image is going to be here, but then we want to be able to change basically two basic things: colors based on the country faction and colors based on the city faction that owns the NFT. And so whenever, you know, the NFT is transferred, we'll then change those values. And so what this kind of simple SVG allows us to do is, you can see I can just simply change this color here, and this is kind of just a test image. This obviously isn't what our NFTs look like, or finally will, but you can change the image, but then this base image, the potion in this case, looks the same. And so it allows us to kind of create these images on the fly. So I'll kind of show you real quick how we're doing that in code. You can see here, we actually have some data for each city that is saved to the blockchain. And so what that type is currently is this information. So we're saving this information: who owns the city, which country currently owns the city, and, you know, the name, stuff like that. That's all hosted on the blockchain in a map. And so then you can see we're kind of generating that metadata, and this data here is going to be whatever is on the blockchain. And so if we change this, it will then change the image. Similarly, you'll see, actually I don't think we're doing anything with this yet. It's probably, actually no, we are. So see, it's getting the faction color right here from the city. And so it's setting that outer SVG. So the outer SVG, let's see. Yeah, so this outer SVG is actually, you know, created on the blockchain, and it's small, so it's not going to take up much data. But then, you know, the inner one is that, which a lot of the image data is coming from, is not. But all we need is this. So then we can change the color based on the faction. And so that's, you know, then returning that. And yeah, so then we have all this base 64 that's returned. So hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of creating that metadata. And so then if I jump to the really cool function, might even do another video on this because there's a lot to it, is the transfer function. So we're overriding the transfer function so that every time a city is transferred, we're then updating some of the data on the blockchain. And I won't go through this whole thing, but you can kind of see, so like this big thing here is checking for if the faction of the new owner is different from the old owner, then we need to go through and possibly update all the cities in that country if that transaction made it so that now a new team owns that country. And so then this set country winning faction will then update all the data on the blockchain to be the new winning faction. And so this is, basically going to be updating data on the blockchain. It's going to be updating these values, country faction, city faction, based on who owns it, so that then our TokenURI function will just be grabbing that data, and on the fly, this image will change, right? This image on the NFT will change, and this what allows us to have like these dynamic images based on the blockchain data. So really pretty cool, pretty neat. It's really cool though that all the data that we need is pretty much, it is all on the blockchain. This whole game is played out on the blockchain. And so it was really cool to figure all that out. I worked on this past week, and this is really one of the main crux, of our project to really make this work. So hopefully that's helpful and interesting to you to see that this kind of stuff is possible on the blockchain. A lot of the dynamic stuff is all just going through this transfer function. That's where the magic kind of happens, is when people are changing hands of the NFTs. So yeah, hope this is interesting, and I'll see you in another video.